Welcome back into the Sports Source. We're still debating this thing. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. They've got everything over there: table tennis, dartboards, stand-up arcade games, foosball, air hockey, pool tables, of course. Their home theater seating can't be beat. They've got pub tables, card tables, bar stools. They got it all. There's always a great selection of stuff and great prices when you go and visit Games and Things out in West Knoxville. Check them out this week, or check them out online at ourgameroom.com. All right, I want to welcome in the final member of our panel, patiently watching from the wings over there.
Yes, I was. It was good.
You came in clean shaven.
Yeah. And with hair.
That's right. Bob Hodge, longtime sports writer, longtime panel member here from week one of the show. Bob, thanks for being here. We've just passed the one-year anniversary of Josh Heupel being hired at Tennessee, and while we've handed out grades, we've talked about the season he had, and everyone was impressed. We haven't talked about just the on-field, off-field, the recruiting, the way he's handled fans, the way he's handled media, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought, let's just throw it out here. What's he gotten right? What's he gotten wrong in year one? Is there anything he's gotten wrong? I mean, nobody's perfect. Is there anything he's gotten wrong? Is there anything that hasn't been talked about that you're like, you know what? This is a pretty good right that he's done that hasn't gotten a lot of publicity. Rights, wrongs after a year. Thoughts? Bob, you're new.
The thing that I think, and you mentioned it, I think what he got the most right, he was just such a 180 from Jeremy Pruitt. He seemed like a guy that was more in tune with fans. You had all the reports from him being more in tune with the players. Okay, we're going to have some fun. Mm-hmm. I don't think Jeremy Pruitt ever said you had any fun. And if Heupel fails, everybody will go back and say, well, it was dodgeball and ice cream. You can't coach like that.
Yep.
But I think that was from the get-go, he got it right by being the opposite of Jeremy Pruitt, who, let's face it, talked like a hillbilly, even though this is the land of the hillbilly.
All right, I'll give you that.
And just did not seem like it was making Tennessee a fun experience over there, and it wasn't a fun experience for us when we went and watched. So I kind of think just brought in the fun, made it a fun thing again.
Rights and wrongs, guys?
Yeah, I agree with what Bob said there, and I think that's Josh Heupel being himself. So coming in, which often seems, especially when you show up here, being yourself as the head coach of the University of Tennessee doesn't seem easy, but he did it. And I know it matters results, so like the dodgeball and the ice cream and all that stuff, but the results are that he got his team to buy in and believe in what he was selling. So being himself, which also includes being a ball coach and coaching offense and putting up points. So that's probably the ultimate answer, which has been talked about over and over again. They put up points, and they were fun, and fans were looking for some fun on the football field.
He didn't put limitations on them. I thought that was a smart thing to do. And one of the coaches talked about how the loudest he yelled at practice was for encouragement, because this was a team and a bunch of players that have been beaten down, I thought. Yeah. And so they needed, instead of a kick in the rear end, they needed a pat on the back. And I think that's what Heupel did and the staff did. But when Heupel went out there, it's like people are, well, what are your expectations? How many games you win? How many yards and all that stuff? He didn't want to put a limit on it. And I think this team had fun. I thought they played with an energy, and I thought they couldn't wait to get out there and start a game because he made it fun for them, and they had fun in this offense.
Yeah, and obviously that showed. One thing I think he got wrong, and John, I think you pointed this out. He talked about
again. Notice how he does this when it's something negative. Well, Mark says, John said.
He talked about a 4-minute offense, right? With this up tempo, but we didn't really see it.
Not a lot.
But there's times when you really could have used it. You could have used some of the check down or something else instead of everything being all or nothing and going back to the bowl game. Deep, when you could have got closer into field goal range. So that's one thing I think he got wrong. Another thing I think he got wrong is you're going to be a 50-50 pass-run ratio pretty much, and I think it was one play difference the whole season. I think you got to have a power running back or a little bit more size at that position if you're going to be running through the tackles in the SEC.
Yeah, I don't know that he had a lot of. Well, I guess he had D. Beckwith over there.
Well,
he could have charged him in the line a time or two. But
I mean, the biggest thing he got wrong is starting quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, you went into the season with Milton. And if you we'll never know, but if Hendon Hooker starts against Pittsburgh, is this an 8-win season instead of just a 7-win season? Yeah. So, and that to me, that was a pretty big miss.
There weren't many wrongs. I mean, you go back to Pruitt's first year, and I harped on it for 3 years and harped on it this year too, going back saying this is why Heupel's better. When he would come out and say, well, we'll just recruit 25 new guys, he didn't have any kind of screw-ups like that where you're just coming across as a jerk. I think he just feels like a much better fit. I guess this gets back to what you were saying about the Jeremy Pruitt thing. I don't know that Jeremy Pruitt seemed like, Bill Belichick doesn't seem like a guy you want to hang out with. But Pruitt didn't seem like a guy who fans would want to come up and shake their hand and talk to him because he just didn't seem to have that personality. Whereas Heupel seems like
not a lot of relatability.
Looks like he'd at least shake your hand. He wouldn't slap it away and keep walking. Relatability is a good word. And from what you gather, that's also true of him inside the athletic department over there. He's much more accessible, much more part of the team.
Well, if you look at what Jeremy Pruitt did as an assistant coach and what Josh Heupel did as assistant coach, of course he had head coaching experience at UCF, but you would go, my gosh, Jeremy Pruitt's the guy. Look at all the success he has been a defensive
Philip Fulmer did.
And, and so I don't think you don't really take into this relatability and things like that when you're a fan watching the coach be hired. I want the guy who's going to help us win. And if you put resumes side by side, with the exception of the head coaching years, who had the better resume?
Oh, yeah.
Jeremy Pruitt.
If you're going for never been a coach before, if you're willing to overlook that. Yeah.
I'll say this, I thought Heupel, though, got more out of what he had because he didn't have as much talent to deal with on offense as Pruitt did on defense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So from that perspective, I like what Heupel did as an assistant.
And I like the fact, it'll be interesting. Was Josh Heupel, playing dodgeball and handing out ice cream at UCF? I don't know that. Maybe he was. I'll say this though: show me a coach who's willing and able to adjust, and I'm impressed by that. A guy who can say, "All right," because there are a lot of coaches who are nice guys, and then when the going gets tough, they just can't turn on and be the bad guy enough to get the team to buy in. And there's going to be some vice versa. At some point, Josh Heupel's going to have to be a bad guy. Can he pull it off? But I like those guys, and I think they have better track records, who can kind of adjust and say, this player needs this or this team needs this, totally different from last year. And coming in here and realizing everybody's running for the exits, I can't do what new coaches typically do, and that is come in and make this the hardest camp of your life, and we're going to get rid of the dead weight. He had to do just the opposite, and I credit him for doing it.
And he had to build team chemistry too.
Yeah.
That's what some of that was
kicked
doing.
off several players
He did.
for their behavior.
Well, and after the fact,
after
the fact, you get the word that Tyon Evans was kind of, don't let the door hit you, which arguably one of your 2-3 best players on the team. In terms of upside.
He was the SEC running back that Chuck was talking about.
All right, when we come back, let's talk about Danny White, the year he had, his first year. Right, wrong. Actually, guys, if you found anything wrong, just text one another about it. Come on back on the Sports Source.